It's like you got to stop everything to relaunch YouTube. I couldn't do it on the fly, guys. But don't worry,
Okay,
I will post this on YouTube. They'll still get to see it. So just not live. And I am now verifying everybody. We're back on the internet, and I'm going to verify that YouTube is in the house. YouTube people, there was a system issue with YouTube. YouTube is live. Give it up for YouTube being live. YouTube, if it's any consolation to being unable to hear our Venezuela conversation, let it be known I will be putting the Venezuela conversation up in full length, and then I'll be making some segments from it just to put that out on YouTube. So I want to apologize for it. I don't know what happened with this internet-based cloud software that we use for YouTube, but I see you all now. So shout out to Star Trek and Brian Cosby. Truth Can't Be Silenced. Mike S. Frederick Murphy, Julie Love, Bob for the Kids, and everybody that stuck around and hung around in YouTube world. And thank you, Facebook people, for putting up with it. Twitch people for putting up with it. I thank you guys. And now we're going back to the panel. We got a lightning round coming, guys. All right. For my people on YouTube, my guests are Holly Hood, an urban libertarian and a political radio host. Robbie Martin, a co-host of the Media Roots radio podcast and a damn good documentary filmmaker. And Shahid Buttar is a constitutional lawyer, a political artist, and he ran for Congress, y'all, and he was on this show, so I'm proud of that. And we were talking about Tulsi Gabbard, and we've been talking about Democratic 2020. We talked about Tulsi, and Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, Joe Biden, someone else announced, I don't even know, a congressman, another senator, I think, announced. Sherrod something. Is he a senator? I don't know. The field's getting crowded. I'm leaving out a lot of people, I'm sure. Bernie hasn't announced. So we do some, can we play some bets? Holly, who's going to run, or who's going to get the nomination? I know it's early as hell. Everybody ain't in it. Let's assume Bernie's in. Who do you think takes it?
Like I said before, and like Shahid said as well, they see a strategy here. They are studying the administration. They see how Obama worked, and they see how they can use this angle. One thing I do want to talk about is that Jay-Z and Meek Mills are coming together to try to do some justice criminal reform. So for Harris to try to come out with her background of her flip-flopping and her background of not being for us for the criminal justice reform, that's really going to hurt her. But to be honest, I really do think that they're going to put her up there. I think they're going to put her up there. I think Mitt Romney's going to be in the House, and I think Trump's going to be in the House, of course, too. I mean, I really still think that he's pretty strong. If he gets the troops out of Syria and he gets this wall, he will be one of the few that actually do the things that they actually say they're going to do when they're running their campaign.
Good or bad. And look, what happens if he doesn't get the wall and this government shutdown was for nothing? Do you still think he wins the nomination, or you still think he's going to win in 2020?
That's going to hurt them. That's going to hurt him because when you're talking about the government, it's not just one particular type of people. The government's everybody. So I mean that I think will definitely hurt him if he doesn't get the wall and we're just up here in limbo for nothing. Yeah, that's going to hurt him. But is it going to eliminate him? No. That's my thought.
Robbie.
Bernie Sanders, Bernie has a good run too. I think Bernie, because of the support that he had before in this 2016 campaign, I think he can come back out again. But will he, make it to debating? No.
Wow. Robbie, what do you think? This is 20 going into 2020. This is 2019. This ain't 2016. Does Bernie still have the mojo? I still love Bernie, man. Bernie is what kind of like got me to realize that maybe there are politicians that aren't all sold out crooks. So I appreciate that for Bernie. But yo, are we having wishful thinking about Bernie in 2020?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think the positives are that even if he's 4 years older now, he's maybe if he doesn't have the energy that we're hoping he'll have, I still think he's the best chance in the Democratic field of someone who can actually stand up against Trump. And in terms of his own energy, I mean, it might be lacking, but the energy for him out there in the public, I think, is higher than it is for any other candidate by far. So, you know, there is energy behind Gabbard, but I think that, you know, she's newer to the scene. There's things about her, I'll just say her moral compass that seem a little troublesome. I specifically for me, one of the deal breakers of wanting to support her is that she was conflicted about torture only 4 years ago when asked about it in an interview. Bernie Sanders also has, you know, things that bug me a lot, especially about his foreign policy. But I think that in terms of if we're looking at it from the angle of who is going to generate the most excitement against Trump, it's Bernie. So that just for that reason alone, you know, it would be very encouraging if he entered the race. And I'm kind of wondering, you know, where is he right now? Is he actually seriously considering entering? I don't even know where he's actually at on that. So maybe someone else can answer that. But yeah, I mean, I'm, you know, and I've never been a huge, you know, I was never a Bernie sycophant or really, really largely into him as a candidate, but I still think he is by far the best chance of anyone running to beat Trump.
All right.
That much is absolutely certain. There's no question that Bernie is best situated, and just like he was in 2016, right? I mean, many of us who supported Bernie in 2016 did so because we knew that Clinton would lose the general election against Trump, and because every piece of evidence, including all the polling data, suggested that Bernie was poised to win if he got the Democratic nomination. And those facts haven't changed. You know, Robbie's right that Bernie is a little bit older now than he was then, and he wasn't young then. But that notwithstanding, you know, the momentum that he has built, not just in terms of having established a nationwide base, but just think about how many donors he has. You know, Bernie has, I don't think AOC's list has yet eclipsed his. I mean, Bernie has the most, for lack of a better word, lucrative fundraising email list that anybody in the country, I think, has ever had. And moreover, more importantly, I think than that, is the way that he has inspired an entire movement of people to run in his wake. AOC ran because, you know, not only was she inspired by Bernie, but she worked on his campaign. I ran for my race in 2018, which will dust off soon for 2020, largely because we saw Bernie Sanders successfully promote a movement even when he lost the campaign. And there's a really important principle to grip here. You can win tactical victories and secure strategic losses, and you can secure strategic victories through tactical losses. Bernie had a tactical loss in 2016, but it was a strategic victory, and we can see that particularly because now there is suddenly a select committee on the climate crisis, and now Medicare for All is moving forward. There were a set of issues that he forced onto the political agenda, and the fact that those issues are sticking in the political agenda indicates that he has more juice, I think, than anybody in the entire spectrum. There's nobody else in the country, including all of the Democratic challengers you've mentioned, who can lay claim to have had as much demonstrated influence over the broad body politic as Bernie Sanders had. I want to make one caveat there. Senator Gillibrand, Joe Biden, like, neither of them have any business running. It's preposterous, right? They don't have bases. There's nothing that's distinguished them. The only thing that distinguishes Joe Biden is that he's lost so many campaigns for the presidency, and he's particularly creepy. And in the era of Me Too, it's crazy. No, seriously, if you Google Joe Biden and creepy, you will see dozens of video clips of him basically being touchy-feely with young women in ways that are entirely inappropriate.
Really? Yeah. He'll just tweet videos of that if they run against each other.
Guess what? We're going to see that video. If he runs, they're going to run that back.
There's plenty of them to run. The one contender I want to draw out among the Democrats who I think is Bernie light and Bernie-esque is Liz Warren. A lot of us in 2016 thought that if Liz Warren came off the bench, that she could have been the candidate to unite the Clinton and Sanders camps. Unfortunately, she is not the political pugilist that Bernie is. We saw in her reaction to Trump's demagoguery about her own ethnic background that she is entirely too willing to let the right wing set the terms of debate, and that's a demonstrated recipe for failure. That's among the things that sank the Clinton campaign and entirely, the entire wing of centrist Democrats. But Liz Warren has been as, if not more influential than Bernie in one particular respect. People forget how she got to the Senate. Liz Warren was a law professor, and she spent her entire career fighting banks in particular. You know, Bernie's been fighting corporations from the Senate. She was fighting banks from Harvard Law School. When the Senate finally agreed, after decades of her advocacy, to create the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and then blocked her from leading the agency that she effectively created, she turned around, took out a Republican senator, beat him in an election, and came back to the Senate and was like, yeah, now what? You know, she has cojones in a way that, you know, Gillibrand doesn't, Biden doesn't. Bernie and Liz Warren are in a class unto themselves. And I think that while Liz Warren is Bernie light, I think she could be well positioned potentially to carry on the mantle of fighting for the interests of working Americans against their co-optation by our corporate rulers.
You know, Elizabeth Warren, ever since she endorsed Hillary Clinton, and I know Bernie endorsed Hillary too, it just always stuck in my craw, bro, that she could have made a real difference. I mean, it would have helped Bernie win Massachusetts. It could have changed the race, and if she would have spoke out. And I also, you know, it's not missed on me, Robbie, that it would take a lot for someone in Elizabeth's position to not side with the first potential female president. Like, I get it, you know, but we got to stand for the courage of our convictions. I mean, or all else is lost, brother, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a big problem, that you didn't stand up for that. You know, I'm not too familiar with her history, actually. I'll have to look into some of the things that were raised here. But yeah, I thought that one of the big mistakes she made so far was what was just said, is that she let the right frame the debate.
The Pocahontas thing. Yeah.
When Obama released his birth certificate, you know, when Trump was starting to do those press conferences long before he was running for president. So that's a mistake. That's not a good sign for how she might deal with right-wing media attacks on her in the future. But yeah, I mean,
Obama's was worse though, Robbie, because Trump wasn't president then. Like, so Obama elevated Trump by responding to Trump.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's already president. She just kind of fought back.
Like, you don't respond. That's funny.
I mean, you know, I think Bernie, again, I just keep going back to, I hope that he makes some kind of announcement soon. And what also worries me is we already have so many potential people running that it's going to split the vote a lot. And especially for someone like Biden getting into the race, I mean, he's just going to take so much of the air up and lose again. And big donors are going to donate to him. I could just already see it. And it's just really depressing to think about him even bothering to run.
Look, guys, it's 10 o'clock. It's been a full hour. I just real briefly want to get your take around the room on the Covington boys, the MAGA hat kids. Is this a story or is it a non-story? Is this propaganda? Shahid, could you start it off and just give your thoughts on it real quick?
Yeah, I mean, there's a story insofar as you had a bunch of privileged racists who were being profoundly disrespectful to a U.S. veteran and indigenous leader. I think the resulting media sycophancy surrounding those students and trying to portray them as victims demonstrates white supremacy as much as the phenomenon of police being able to shoot people randomly and escape any accountability, right? Those students, I think, they're all Brett Kavanaugh, basically. Like, every one of them demonstrated the same degree of entitlement, the same degree of racism, which, remember, is both prejudice plus power, right? And without prejudice and power, you know, racism is not the same. And those students have a great deal of power as privileged sons and daughters of basically plutocrats, and they, I think, demonstrated their own. What I would describe them as is very un-American. Because it's un-American to punch down in the first place. And that's exactly, you know, what Brett Kavanaugh's done his whole life. It's what Trump's done his whole life. It's one reason why so many Americans are alarmed by those people having positions of influence, because they don't represent our values. And the Covington students don't represent our values. I think when their school and their diocese came out blaming them for their lack of any number of things: morals, history, awareness, self-restraint, respect, any patriotism. You know, those institutions were right, and those students, quite frankly, were way, way, way out of line. And I think that if we have any commitment at all to repudiating our colonial history and respecting human rights, as we have pledged to do for the last 70 years, while failing repeatedly to do in practice. We really have to hold the line on holding these students accountable, and that each of them should bear the brunt of the loss of credibility that I think they've each established for themselves. I really hope that they, when seeking college admissions, that their admissions committees remember their acts in that context. I hope none of them, for instance, should ever hold public licenses for professions. Wow. I think that those are acts that should be remembered. Absolutely.
Wow. That is stern talk, man. That is probably the most punitive conversation I've heard, commentary I've heard on the topic. Do you agree with that, Holly, that these kids, these teenagers, these high school students were that far out of line? They didn't put their hands on Mr. Phillips. I didn't see them curse him. I didn't see them spit on him. There was no assault, no battery. What do you think, Holly? Is Shahid, is he going too far with this?
I mean, I don't know, because we talk about this. I talked about this before. Like when you hear something like Black Power and Black empowerment, those are things to uplift us and to make us equal and equality. But when you hear things like white power goes into white supremacy and how they want to control everything and how the way that goes. That right there to me is our society and our culture is a little bit different. Where I grew up and how we grew up, even millennials too, are taught to respect our elders, regardless of whatever race or whatever they are. They are our elders, period. And for what I see it display was, the like you said, the white privilege of where they feel as though they don't have respect for anybody that is not their quote unquote their white superior or a person that they respect. So to me, it was more of a disrespectful thing. I'm not sure if it bleeds into the racist thing to me. That could just be the kids of today not having respect for their elders in general. But of course, because of how the way they look and appear, and of course the media and what our eyes only perceive and what we perceive, it really did kind of look a little, I would say racial tone, but I would say not really racial. I would say more disrespectful, the gap between the younger millennium and the older generation to me.
What about you, Robbie? What are your thoughts about it?
And I have so many thoughts about it. But I mean, I found it interesting the way that sort of the right-wing media picked up on certain missteps and things that maybe the mainstream media and liberal, like Hollywood celebrities had made on Twitter, like Kathy Griffin trying to dox all the students. The right-wing media spin machine sort of seized upon those things, and they turned it into this thing of they're trying to get these children murdered. Yeah. I sort of saw that narrative that the right sort of flipped it back on the original narrative. And, they tried to throw in some stuff saying, well, these black Muslims apparently on the DC mall were the ones who provoked it, when they're actually this fringe group of that they actually call themselves the black Hebrew Israelites. That have
Hebrew Israelite. Yes, I am myself a black Hebrew Israelite.
Oh, you are? Okay. So they were trying to blame it all on that, acting like they had provoked it. So the right wing really did a good job. When I say good job, I mean just like a savvy job of seizing on these little individual things and then making us question the reality of what we had just seen, sort of by gaslighting us into being like, well, maybe those students actually weren't so rude or disrespectful. Maybe they were provoked. So I think that's interesting because I watched the entire video and, I saw the entire context of it, and I still came away with it thinking that these students were terribly disrespectful, kind of scary, the mob mentality of it. And also, let's just be honest, it's creepy that people wear merchandise from the president of the United States. And they're all wearing, even if you don't think the MAGA hat represents the KKK hood, it's still creepy to see a group of teenagers all wearing that hat and all chanting together. That just creeps me out,
It should creep you out. It's like wearing a brown shirt in Germany in 1930. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're playing the same role.
I don't know why other people don't get that. I'm with you guys 100% on that. Why don't people get it? You wearing your leader's hat, like his slogan. I think it is scary. It does remind me of Germany, the 30s. It scares the hell out of me, man. Last topic.
But I do want to tap on this before we go. When we were talking about the whole full-length video, the Hebrew Israelites were talking, passages and stuff from the Bible that they felt that reflect the truth and that it doesn't get out as much. And I think that some people can't handle the truth. Some people don't want to know that we are the true chosen people of the Bible that we speak of. And those are the things that they were talking about, and how, in the Bible that they say about certain races that are oppressing us, and we can see it with our own eyes. And we do see that there are a lot of school shootings with, white children that are shooting up the school, and then they get packed from the back. And I mean, they get, I guess they're mentally, have issues. But then when you're going into the neighborhood and the hood and the neighbor, it's like, oh, they're animals, and this is how they act. So that's what kind of perpetuates a little bit, because the Hebrew Israelites were speaking passages of the Bible that they probably were offended because they felt personal about the truth. That's what it came back to being.
Yeah,
May I say one other thing on this subject?
Yeah, sure.
We're focusing particularly on the students, which I think in itself, and this is not criticism of anybody here, but in itself that reflects to some extent of white supremacy, because the one person we haven't talked particularly about is Nathan Phillips. And he's not just an older person. To Holly's point, I respect your idea that maybe the students were disrespectful of an elder, but it's more than that. There's only one of those people who were in that video who has ever had to fear for his life, and that was the person who served our country in an illegitimate war conquest in Vietnam, right? Like he's a veteran. And when you have right-wing people saying they support our troops, well, apparently they don't, because when our troops are actually afraid of right-wing vigilantes, as Nathan has said, he was afraid of those students who surrounded him and mocked him during what was essentially a sacred prayer ceremony. A lot reveals itself then. And if we have any commitment to supporting our troops, that would have been a time to support our troops. And he wasn't just an elder. He's not just indigenous, he's a veteran. And, between being an elder person, between being indigenous, and between being a veteran, he deserves respect that he did not receive from students who have done nothing to deserve respect and everything to deserve a program.
You're absolutely right about that.
I did bring that up. I brought up the fact that there are people who are dismissing Nathan Phillips' claims that he was in fear of his life. And I had to really think about this. And I said, well, you know what? We accept that from police officers all the time. And they have guns and walkie-talkies and bulletproof vests and the ability to call more cops. And we'll say, we believe he was in fear of his life. So we got one guy in a crowd of, 100. I don't know exactly what the number of it was. But, yeah, I don't think it's fair to just say, he wasn't afraid. Yeah, you got to take his word for it. I mean, he was that guy there, you weren't there, and you just got to go with it. I mean, he's 70 years old, and we got, 100 able-bodied kids all wearing, I think it was a bad situation. But I also think it was a nothing story that got blown up. I'm sorry, guys, I just do. I just don't think it's as big as a story as it has been portrayed to be. Like I said, if anybody laid their hands on Mr. Phillips, they should go directly to jail. Right, if anyone spit on him, anybody did anything to him. And I heard the black Israelites, Hebrew Israelites say, you better not touch him. And there was only like 5 of them, and it was, like I said, 100 kids. They aren't 12-year-olds. Those kids could fight and wrestle. And those Hebrew Israelites were ready to fight for Nathan Phillips. I think that says something about them standing up for him like that. I wanted to talk about the Green New Deal. We ran long. It's like I feel like the Green New Deal needs to be talked about in a long form, sort of like the same respect we gave to Venezuela. So I don't want to wedge it in here, guys, but I do want to definitely thank all of you guys for joining me. Let's go around the room. I want to know what you guys are doing, what you're promoting, what's going on with you. Let's start with Holly. Once again, Holly, is there anything you'd like to promote? Where can people find more about you?
I couldn't hear you. You talking to me?
Oh, yeah, Holly, yeah. What do you have going on, Holly?
You went out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Okay, no, that's fine. Well, yeah, you can reach me. I'm on Instagram at Long Live Holly Hood. I do have a collection just in time for Black History. I'm wearing one of the shirts right here. This is Dorothy Dandridge. I also have Nat Turner as well as Marcus Garvey. I like to, it's called the Truth Pill Collection. There's a lot of fallen soldiers like Nat Turner and Marcus Garvey that were left out of the history books that we don't know about. And we want to make sure to pay homage to them. So you can, get that on WeBuyBlack.com. /TruePill, and you can order the hoodies and the shirt. And you can catch me tomorrow morning on Fault Line 105.5 FM with Lee Stranahan and Garland Nixon. And sometimes Tim Black.
Thank you, Holly. I appreciate you being here. Robbie, what do you got going on, man? Anything you can promote and share with the people so they can find out more about it?
Yeah, I'm still hawking my my documentary film series, Very Heavy Agenda, which is on DVD, and it's streaming on Vimeo.com. You can rent or buy it on Vimeo. And you can find me on Twitter at Fluorescent Gray. And I do a podcast with my sister, Abby Martin, once a week. We put out usually 4 episodes a month called Media Roots Radio. And if you want to support us there, go to patreon.com/Media Roots Radio.
Love it, love it. And shout out, tell Abby we said hello, man. And last but not least, Shahid Buttar, sir, is there anything you got going on that you would like to promote as well?
Sure. People can follow my political music at patreon.com/Shahid. A lot of what we were talking about today is going to be informing the platform for my forthcoming congressional campaign. Folks can visit our 2018 site at shahidforchange.us. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Thanks again for having us on.
Man, thank you guys once again for being with me, man. This has been great. Everybody in all my folks on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Roku, give it up for my crew. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and checking out everybody. And look, guys, great conversation. Like I said, don't worry about it, you two people. I will have this uploaded in full in the next couple of hours. Don't forget, tomorrow is Freedom Friday, meaning the phone lines will be open. You'll be able to call up. Every caller gets up to 5 minutes of uninterrupted phone time to talk to the masses, because we believe in communication. The new form of innovation on the airwaves is interactivity. That's a conversation. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, don't let nobody take your cornbread, and this is the place to be, right here on Tim Black TV. Peace.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you all. And we are ending.